Welcome to the San Gorgonio Chapter Trail Talk series. My name is John St. Clair, and I am your Zoom host and also one of the committee members of the Trail Talk Committee in the San Gorgonio Chapter of Sierra Club. And before we get started, I want to set the ground rules. First of all, everyone needs to be muted except for the speaker. And I'm looking through, and it looks like everybody is muted and remain muted during the presentation. And if you have questions, so you don't forget them, click on the chat icon down at the bottom of your screen. It has a little picture of a talking bubble with the word chat. You click on that and you send the message to everyone, or meeting group chat is what they're calling it now. And Julianne is usually our keeper of the questions, and she will relay those questions to our presenter as it seems appropriate. And we'll make sure all of your questions are answered. And then at the very end, you can unmute yourself and talk as well. But during the presentation, we want you to just listen and put the questions in the chat box. So a couple of items. We're really heading into hiking season. And if you don't know, Trail Talk was started during the COVID pandemic as a way to keep in touch with people and give them pointers on how to hike during the pandemic and what were good trails for that and what weren't. And then we just kept doing it and have presented lots of different information through the Trail Talk series. It's the third Wednesday of every month. And if you registered before 5 p.m., you should have gotten an email from me that has the link to the San Gorgonio Chapter YouTube channel. And this program is being recorded, as have all of our Trail Talk Zoom meetings, and they are archived on the YouTube channel. So don't throw that email away. Save it or go to the YouTube channel and bookmark it, because there's lots of useful information there from all the Trail Talk presentations we have had since 2021, beginning of 2021. So at this point, I want to, one other thing, just as an aside. Last Saturday, we trained 12 new Outings Leader trainees, and it's a great group of people, and we're all excited about having a new group of people being trained to be Outings leaders, and we hope to have a robust outings list this summer with lots of hikes to do and at all different levels. So at this point, I want to introduce Julianne Anderson, who's one of the co-chairs of the San Gorgonio Chapter Outings Committee. She and Dave Melton are the co-chairs of the Outings program. And Julianne also is a member of the Trail Talk Committee, and I think she's an executive member of the chapter too, if I'm correct. So she's really busy with Sierra Club stuff, and she is going to introduce our speaker as soon as I put her spotlight on. Take it away.
Oh, thank you, John. And everyone, John, as usual, is very modest. Not only did he do a lengthy hike at high altitude today, but he chairs our leadership training course committee and runs the program, and led, in my view, a wonderful session last Saturday. We held it at the San Bernardino County Museum. Delightful, a wonderful group of new trainees plus our faculty. So my thanks to John for outstanding work, just outstanding. And he's John is very modest, but he hosts this series. He hikes, he leads wonderful outings and hard ones, tough hikes. So very substantial outings for us, and he chairs the program. So thank you, John. A couple of things before I introduce our wonderful presenter, Norman Bossom, Detective Inspector Norman. Uh, We have upcoming part two of our leadership training course, which includes free certification for first aid training. If you are an outings leader and you need to recertify, please join us. You can recertify free of charge on Saturday, May 3rd at the Keller Ski Hut up in Running Springs. We're training both in CPR and also in wilderness first aid. Jocelyn Sita and Carla Kellums will be providing the training, and hopefully Norman can also come and lecture on rattlesnakes if he has the time. A few other things. John is absolutely correct. We have an ever-growing list of outings of all levels. So whether you want to take an early morning stroll, and we had one just this past Sunday at the California Citrus State Historic Park. It's completely ADA compliant. So if you have children in a stroller, or if you are experiencing mobility challenges, or you want just an easy stroll, or you want to go into the citrus, and there are over 90 varieties of citrus at the park, and it is the wonderful time of year where they are blossoming, and the scent is unbelievable. It is just beautiful. Every second Sunday of the month, we stroll there. That's our all ability stroll for everyone. Uh, we have many other outings, fitness walks, medium hikes, hard hikes. So look for John's hikes, look for mine. After this Sunday, we'll be at Mount Rubidoux. It's Easter Sunday, and they have sunrise service up there. But we are still going to be doing our dawn hike before we all go back home if we celebrate Easter. So that will be meeting. Then the following Sunday, I will be doing the Lost Horse Mine hike out in Joshua Tree. We also have a number of car camps coming up. Carla Kellums is leading in mid-May at Pioneer Town. I'm leading the car camp to Mammoth Lakes, Lake Mary, beautiful lakeside car camping. June 1st, July will be in Sequoia Kings Canyon, and in September we'll be in Grand Canyon. So on Labor Day. So we have lots of fun things going on, and then possibilities of Alabama Hills in October, and maybe a Joshua Tree Sheep's Head group camp for Thanksgiving. So many things coming up. And Earth Month is here. And Marianne reminds us that we have many, many Earth Months events. So check sierraclub.org/San Gorgonio, our website. Go to Outings and Events, and they are listed. So please join us for beautiful Earth Month events all over the chapter. So that being said, we have many things coming up. Norman Bossom is our esteemed outings leader, colleague, and he is joining us. I want to introduce him uh, properly. He's been a member of the Sierra Club for 12 years, since 2013. He's associated with the Mojave Group. He has been the outings chair there and the political chair there. Um, he's a qualified outings leader, and he's also connected with the Mojave Historic Society, and we have benefited from that. He has had some of the most fascinating presentations on high desert history, uh, the um, the Mojave Trail and the Bighorn Mine are two that are relatively recent. So Norm is presenting today on a very appropriate topic, as it is spring. It is mid-spring and it is warming up. So rattlesnake awareness is something we should all be mindful of as we hike in the warming areas in the chapter. They're already coming out in the desert, and they will be soon coming out in the higher elevation areas. So with that, I call him Detective Inspector, as he was a police detective in the UK, which I think is absolutely fascinating. Um, so Detective Inspector Norman, Coach Norm, our own Norm Bossom, will present. And take it away, Norm.
Okay, thank you very much. Very embarrassing.
No, that's okay.
No, that's okay. I think the first thing I want to do is just make sure that everybody's aware that the reason that I've done a fairly in-depth study of rattlesnakes was because when I first started leading hikes, you're taking people out and you start to realize that they are the number one predator that we need to be very, very careful of. And of course, they can be lethal. But it was about the fact that I'd heard so many stories about what they do, like they will attack you and they're aggressive and all this sort of thing. And I was thinking, well, whatever happens, we need to understand them, because generally these wild animals are fairly predictable. And let's make no mistake about it, all my studies have revealed rattlesnakes are extremely predictable. And what had happened also, I'm in this over 55 community, and I was at some function or something, and I can hear a guy there, and he's mouthing off about how, yeah, I saw this snake today, so I hit it with a shovel and killed it, and all this sort of thing. And I heard him say that. I said, "What sort of snake was it then?" And he goes, "I don't know. It was a snake." So these are. This is particularly sad, as we know. Rattlesnakes are. Um, they they are different from other snakes. It was interesting because they found a 3.5 million-year-old skeleton of a rattlesnake, which shows you how old it is. And it's suggested that it's the most evolved snake that there is on the planet. So we start to understand why it's the way it is. And they're widespread in the Americas, nowhere else on the planet, into little parts of Canada as well. But what's really interesting is that most of the rattlesnake species that there are found in the southwest US and northern Mexico. And there are 36 different species. That's arguable depending where you read it, but apparently there are 36 species and 65 to 70 subspecies. So we've got plenty of them around, and we know where they are. Looking up, the most important thing is how many people get bitten and how many people die from rattlesnake bites. Well, it appears to be full of conjecture, that question. They talk anywhere from 2,000 to 7,000 people are bitten every year. I find 7,000 a little bit high, but maybe it did happen once. And they talk about 5 to 12 deaths. So we know that if you get bitten by a rattlesnake, you are unlikely to die. And in fact, more people die from non-native bee stings than die from rattlesnake bites. And I strongly suspect that that's something to do with allergies, being allergic to the bee sting. And it is suggested that people who die from rattlesnake bites are possibly allergic to the venom. And that would appear to make some sense. Anyway, so we've got these wonderful creatures, and let me make it quite clear from the start that if I never see another rattlesnake, I'm not going to be unhappy. Sadly, I saw one yesterday, but it was a beautiful creature, really interesting, and it was doing what I've seen these things do for some considerable time. It's also important to note that last year, hiking in the desert, in the mountains, Big Bear and Wrightwood, never saw one. Didn't see one at all, but there we are. I've already seen one this year, and they are certainly out and about. This is the time of year where they're out there. They want to feed because they've been hibernating, and they want to mate. And so who can blame them? Food is a good thing. The important thing to know about them is that they are solitary. The only time that they're in with groups is when they are breeding or hibernating, and their hibernation is known as brumation because they are reptiles. They generally, the females will lay up to 12 eggs. It's a live birth. In other words, they store the eggs inside, and then the eggs hatch inside the body, and they let the rattlesnakes out. The thing to bear in mind with a very young rattlesnake is that it doesn't have any ability to be able to, if it delivers a bite, it can't, it's unable to monitor how much venom it puts inside you, whereas a regular adult rattlesnake can and does. It is suggested that the females just let the little ones go and that's the end of it. But there's also a suggestion, they don't really know, but they think that until the first shedding, the female will look after the babies. But that is another point of conjecture. They don't really know. They just suspect that that might be the case. That's important to us because if you see a real young one, avoid it, but just realize it's not going to chase you because it's not big enough. And the other thing about it is it ain't going to rattle because it's only got a tiny little thing.
Hey,
Okay.
Norm.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of questions
Already.
Are rattlesnakes pit vipers? What kind of rattlesnake did you see yesterday, and why do they monitor their venom?
Okay. The one we saw yesterday was undoubtedly a Southern Pacific, which seems to be the type that we see around here all the time. I've yet to see one that isn't a Southern Pacific.
What do they look like?
They are a dark browny color with white stripes on them, and a band around the body. And they are one of the least venomous by all accounts. But I'll go into that. And how do they monitor the venom? Well, they don't really know, but they think that what can happen is that the snake may have bitten an animal and eaten it, and then it means that it's got a depleted venom. And so that's what happens. Or the other thing it could be is that they know who we are because of their all of their attributes, and which I will go into in a minute. So yes, they are pit vipers. Yes, 20% of rattlesnake bites are dry bites. Is it possible that they're out of venom, or is it possible that they just don't want to waste it on us because they know they can't eat us, because they're able to tell who we are? So again, these are things that they can't answer, but they're worth bearing in mind. But you don't want to take a chance that you're going to be part of the 20%. That's too big a shot, especially as I go into this, you'll see that you really don't want to get a rattlesnake bite because the treatment is pretty bad, and the symptoms of the bite are pretty bad as well. So we've got them, they're solitary, except for breeding and hibernation. In the wild, they reckon they can live up to about 21 years, in captivity 30. And darn anybody who keeps them in captivity, they should be letting them out there. Yes, they are a pit viper. Their eyesight is okay, particularly at night. Their hearing is okay as well. But the two things that really make them stand out is they can actually feel vibrations. And I'll go into that in just a moment. And they have the heat sensors, the pits. So most of the time, they're going to know who we are. One, because they felt the vibrations, and two, and let's face it, we vibrate an awful lot more than a mouse or a rat. And the heat sensors, they're able to tell who you are. And that helps them, of course, when it comes to their hunting. They are ambush predators. And what they'll do is they will actually spend 2 or 3 days under a bush because they'll sense an animal trail, and they'll know by the sense what sort of animal it is. They'll know that it's a rodent, and they will sit there for 2 or 3 days and wait for it. And prior to striking, they don't rattle because that's just going to scare the prey off. And what they'll do is they'll nip it as it goes by, and then they'll follow the scent until the thing collapses, and that's when they will swallow it whole. And they're able to do that because they can actually push their fangs back so that they can open their jaws and get the thing in if it's rather large. They feed, it could be anything from a week to a month, depending how big they are and how big the prey is. And when they're not hunting, then what they'll do is they'll find a burrow or a deep rock crevice, and they will stay in there until they need to come out and hunt again. So it's possible that they can only eat maybe 12 times a year. And it's also possible that if they have a particularly large ingestion, they can not feed for a month. And it can also take as much as a week to digest. And one of the things that's interesting is that the venom that they inject into the animal that they are preying on actually starts to, has enzymes in it that start to digest the animal. So there are two types of venom. One is blood clotting, and the other one is paralysis. And there are a couple of rattlesnakes, the timber rattlesnake and the Mojave green, that actually have blood clotting and the paralysis in relation to the venom. So, yeah, one of the things, and honestly, I've been here in the desert now, and like I said, I've never seen a Mojave green, and I really haven't spoken to anybody who's seen one either. So they are, as we are told, they're very reclusive, and they want to avoid us humans. Interesting thing yesterday, we're on a hike, and we, as I said, we came across this rattlesnake, and it was across the trail. Every rattlesnake I've come across so far, and there have been quite a number of them, they've actually been going across a trail. They've actually been moving. And as you come on them, they'll coil and they'll give you a rattle to let you know that, we don't want you near us. And that's not a problem. You just got to make sure that you stay 10 or 12 feet away, remembering that they can only strike within a third of their body length. And so if a snake is 6 feet long, if it's coiled, it can only strike 2 feet. Remember, they're ambush predators. All they need to do is strike 2 feet. And they don't need to strike us. And despite what people might tell you, they do not chase you and they are not aggressive towards you. In fact, it's generally quite the opposite. And yesterday I saw something that I'd seen once before. And this rattlesnake from yesterday, it was actually across the trail. And immediately it saw us, it coiled, and then it dived headlong into the bush. It actually took off diving headlong into the bush. And I saw that on one other occasion as well. Most other times when you see them, they just ignore you and they just get out of the way quickly. But you'll find the odd one or two who are going to coil up and they're going to give you a rattle. And you just got to make sure that you stay away from them. Just stand still and let them go.
Hey, Norm, more questions. Linda writes, we used to have many Mojave greens where I live in Joshua Tree, not many in my area anymore, but others say they see them. They are not aggressive. So are they mainly up in the high desert, the Mojave greens?
Yeah, Mojave greens, the Mojave Desert.
Right. So they're in the high desert.
That's where you find them. And as I say, we do hike around the Mojave Desert. I've never seen one. But it might well be that they were there, but they just stay out of the way and just ignore you. Let you go past.
Reclusive.
Know who you are. Yeah, they've got a reputation for being aggressive, but they're not aggressive. It's a nonsense. People think because they're coiled and they're rattling, they're being aggressive, but they're not. They're just warning you to stay away.
Bunch of other questions. How do they digest a large rodent, one that's larger than the snake's diameter? Do they eat only rodents? Where can we expect to contact rattlesnakes on hikes? And are they nocturnal or can we expect to see them 24/7?
Good questions. Really good questions. As for the digesting, it's the enzymes in their body that break it all down. And as I said, some of that's in the venom. So yes, they'll eat rats, they'll eat mice, they'll eat small birds. They will also eat lizards. That's probably about it. They have been known to take a small rabbit. And as I said, they can take 4 or 5 days to digest the thing. So, you know, if they're a decent size and they can get it down, that's what they'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was the other question?
Where can we expect to contact them on hikes?
Okay. As I said, just about all of the ones that I've ever seen have been actively coming across the trail. I've never seen one go down the trail. And the reason that they don't do that is because they can actually sense that there are people who have been walking across this trail. Plus the fact they'll know roughly who you are from the vibrations. And they'll know that these are big vibrations, which leads me to the point that I always say to people, whatever you do when you go on a hike, make sure that you've got at least one hiking pole and it's 5 feet long, and make sure that when you're walking, you plop it down on the ground and then you've got the vibrations going. And that way they'll know you're coming. And most of the time they're going to get out the way. So where do they stay? When they're waiting for prey, it's always under a bush. It will always be under a bush. But remember, it will not be next to a trail, a regularly used trail with people. What they do is they get under a bush by an animal trail because they can sense them. So it's basically when you're bushwhacking, you're likely to encounter.
Okay.
That's when you have to just make sure that you take a look at everything. When you're on a regular trail, you're unlikely to see them unless they just cross the trail in front of you.
New question. What predators go after rattlesnakes?
Oh yeah, well, hawks, all birds of prey do, and also coyotes will eat them. Various animals, but mainly it's the birds. And of course, the one who'll go after the small ones is it's the roadrunner.
Ah, right.
Roadrunners go after the smaller ones. Yeah, that's right. So they are predated quite heavily by numerous, and of course they will. The what's it snake will take them. Forgotten the name of it now.
Is it king snakes? Will
The king
snakes
snakes,
walk
yeah.
down? Yeah.
King
New
snakes,
question.
king snakes are not troubled by the bite.
Right. Right.
But the other thing that I wanted to say was that, and I've actually not witnessed it, but I've seen a couple of dogs that have been bitten by rattlesnakes.
Mm.
And if you bear in mind that a dog always leads with the nose. So if he ferrets under a bush and there's a rattlesnake there, it's going to spook the rattlesnake, and the rattlesnake will bite it. And I've actually seen a couple of dogs that have been bitten in the shoulder, and they never got any treatment, and they're okay, but they're struggling to walk with that limb because it's clotted the blood and it's killed some of the muscle in it. Cats apparently recover fairly well from rattlesnake bites. So yeah, the thing is, lessons are always going to need to be learned, like the hiking stick, so that you get the vibrations, and you make sure that you look under bushes. And also remember, if you take your dog out into the wilderness, do not let it off the leash, because if you do, it will bury its head under a bush and you never know there's going to be a rattlesnake there.
Right. A question or a comment to that regard, Norm. Marianne writes that rattlesnake aversion training can be done for dogs if you're in an area with snakes.
Yeah. We have a guy locally here, Andy Andrews, and I mean, this guy's in his mid-80s and he does that. And from what I understand, he keeps rattlesnakes, and in fact, I know he does. And what it is, it's the odor of a rattlesnake that he teaches the dogs to avoid. So they're not going to avoid any other snakes, but that doesn't matter. As long as they avoid the rattlesnakes. And apparently that's how they do it, with the smell of the rattlesnake. they give off a particular odor, I guess. That's what I'm told. So you know that we're aware that rattlesnakes are ambush predators. They don't rattle before a strike. So if you've got one in front of you and he's rattling, he's probably not going to strike. If they are flat, laying flat, then that and not moving, then they're obviously warming up. So that's what will happen in the spring, in the morning. They could be laying down there, or they could have just eaten. And they can bite even though they're laying down. They can still bite you. But immediately they coil, of course, they can strike and bite. And what you'll find is if you get close to them and they're laying flat out, they will coil. So it's best to just stay there for a few minutes. They'll know you're there and they'll slide off into the bushes. And they're always going to be more likely to retreat than hang around giving you warnings and things like that. So now we come to the part where what happens if you get bitten? Well, as we know, you've got to do everything you can to avoid getting bitten. And if you're careful and if you bear in mind all of the things that we've just talked about, I can assure you, you won't get bitten. If you do, and one of the things to bear in mind is that most people that get bitten are males aged between 15 and 35, and generally alcohol and or drugs have been involved. So they start messing around with them, and that's not what you want to do. I think that is really important to understand, that there are people that hunt them as well. And of course, the biggest predator of a rattlesnake is the human. And I know they have rattlesnake hunts in Texas where they pour gasoline down holes and set fire to it and all that sort of thing, generally in the spring to get rid of them. So we are the biggest threat to rattlesnakes. And I'm not saying that they know that, but hey, we'll see. So if you get bitten by a rattlesnake, you will soon know whether it's a dry bite or not, because there will be swelling around the bite, and it will start to get uncomfortable and a little bit later on painful. What's the thing to do? You've got to get that person to hospital. They have to get to hospital. And in this day and age, with the cell phones and with the SOS and all that sort of thing, it shouldn't be that difficult. What they talk about is they need to be in hospital within 6 to 48 hours. I don't think I'd fancy having to wait 48 hours. I think that might be a little bit risky. So what you've got to do is keep the person calm. If it's an arm or the shoulder, just all you got to do is just disable it. If it's a bite on the leg, it's a little bit more difficult to disable because you might have to walk out of there. But if you can avoid walking out, that's fine. Bearing in mind that rattlesnake bites for children are worse than for adults because adults are bigger and there's more body mass for it to get into. And like I said, very, very few people die from rattlesnake bites. But in this day and age, it's ideal that you get them to hospital as soon as possible. But all you can do is keep them calm. Do not lance the wound and suck the poison out. That's all for the Lone Ranger, that one. That is extremely dangerous because you could easily get some poison, some of the venom in your mouth. The other thing is, do not put on a tourniquet. And the reason for that is because if you put on a tourniquet, you stop the blood flow, and that means all of the venom stays in one area. And that will end up with the person having to have that limb amputated. So it's all a question of let it flow around the body, and then make sure that you get that person to hospital, keeping them calm. But it's important to know that there is nothing else you can do. And the only cure for a rattlesnake bite is the antivenom. And because I know the other day when we spoke, Julianne, you were really shocked at when I said a course of anti-venom could cost you $70,000. Well, I thought, well, I'll double check for you. And I've double checked, and actually, they talk about it depending on your insurance and other things, but they talk about it being $7,000 a shot, and you're going to need at least 10. You might even need 20. Yeah. And it's, as I said, $7,000 a shot. So the important thing that everybody needs to understand is how many rattlesnakes are you going to see out in the wilderness? Not that many. Most that you see will avoid you. You may even walk past one in a bush 10 yards away, and you'll not even know they're there. The important thing to understand is that just be aware of those simple little things. Bear in mind that you've got your hiking stick, and that you're looking, if you go near any bushes and you're bushwhacking, and make sure that you check everywhere. Just a general glance will do it. But as long as you're hitting the ground with your hiking stick, and you should be okay. And like I said, most of the time it's people fooling around with these animals that get them bitten, and generally out of stupidity. But the common sense point is that's where they're at, and that's what they'll do. I don't really think that there's anything else to talk about in relation to them. Like I said, and I'll just reiterate the point, if I never see another rattlesnake, I will not be unhappy. But I don't have a problem with them. It's just, much more comfortable. If you feel so inclined, you can go to REI and you can get the gaiters that are rattlesnake proof. You can buy gaiters from REI that goes on the bottom of your legs, so that if you do happen to just step into one and it bites you, it won't go through the gaiter.
Huh.
So there are ways of doing that, and who's to say that it's not important? And it's probably more important for somebody who is a little bit leery about snakes, and even more leery about rattlesnakes. If they're hiking and they've got the gaiters, then they're going to feel a lot better. Yeah.
Couple of questions. Boy, you've gotten a lot of questions here, Norm. Are they attracted to body heat if someone is sleeping out in the open?
No, absolutely not. They'll avoid you.
Okay.
They'll know they'll know, because the pits are so advanced. They can tell a large body mass like that, and they're going to go the other way.
Okay. Christina Torres is writing, we used to run into a lot of rattlesnakes on our summer hikes years ago. The gaiters were too expensive for me. I used soccer shin guards, wearing them under my pants facing outward on both legs. That's a good idea. That's a great idea. Protection. Do we need to identify the type of snake if somebody is bitten? Because I know someone, a colleague at work, her son was bitten last year in the Santa Monica Mountains, and it was a Southern Pacific. But do we need to identify the species of rattlesnake?
No, rattlesnake bite is a rattlesnake bite. The anti-venom is for everything.
Okay.
So no, you don't need to do that. You don't need to cut its head off and take the snake in.
Yeah, exactly. Boy, you don't want to handle it.
Which is dangerous as well, because you might get another bite from it. Yeah.
Well, John writes, the book that you recommend, Norm, is Rattlesnakes: Answers to Frequent Questions by James W. Cornett.
Yeah. Anyone who's going to go hiking in the desert, anyone who's likely to encounter a rattlesnake, this is a book that you should really read. It's ever so simple, really interesting, and I do highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Highly recommend it.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that you're going to lecture at our first aid session on May 3rd, because I think this is all really vital information. Linda Harder writes, I love to see them. I have seen one right on the trail, on the Pine City Trail. It was coiled near a rock, and people stepped right over it without seeing it and not disturbing it. It was amazing.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
I,
I've
I see them every year in my yard, and our yard backs up into the Corona Hills. We're in Riverside, unincorporated Riverside, right against us, and we see the red diamonds, which are beautiful. They have kind of rusty red diamonds on their back, and the black and white stripes by the rattle. Um, so they're definitely just out in warm, scrubby places. Although I've seen one close to 10,000 feet, way up San Jacinto toward the peak. I've
yeah,
seen, and it was dark gray, and it was right next to the trail in a shadowy place. I remember that.
yes. It sounds like a Southern Pacific. They
Yeah,
seem to be at our. I mean, we're at 3,000 feet here, but you tend
yeah,
to see them around 4 and 5,000 feet as well.
yeah,
So, yeah, but there is the woodland rattlesnake, whatever they call it, and um, I don't know very much about that one at all. But from what I understand, they are at altitude,
yeah.
the woodland rattlesnakes, and then they got double the whack with their venom as the Mojave green.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. But
Oh,
it's really a question of just keeping your eyes peeled. If you stay on a regular hiking trail, then you're extremely unlikely to encounter them. It's the
right.
hiking.
That's what happened to my colleague's son, young man, as you mentioned. He was pushing through completely overgrown trail. It was completely overgrown. He insisted on going through, and boy, was that a mistake.
Yeah.
So
Is he okay?
he had a tough time. They airlifted him into UCLA, and it was touch and go because his cell phone did not have service, but his girlfriend's did, different providers. So they got him in. His thigh got to be the size of a tree trunk, and he was in the ICU for 3 days. So it was no joke. But he recovered and he was fine and he was out hiking again. And I told his mom about the Sierra Club that he needs to go and enjoy some training with the Angeles chapter. But a couple of last things. Christina writes, I too got mad at a guy on Terry Peak by Lake Paris who killed a rattlesnake on the trail there. I told him he is walking in their area and he should just let them continue on, then go on his way as they keep down the rodent population. Yeah, going out there killing wildlife, come on. Just back up and let them be.
Yeah,
So,
it's it's just ignorance, isn't it? It's just
yeah,
ignorance.
yeah,
That's really the sad thing about these creatures because they are misunderstood. And when you
yes,
start to, like I said, if you understand exactly how they view the world, you suddenly begin to realize that they are not the danger that you think they are. But you've got to give them that respect, and you've got to make sure that you just don't put yourself in any position where you're going to get bitten by them. But it's. I mean, I've been doing this for I don't know 13 years now. This
yeah,
hiking,
yes,
not encountered that. Oh, there was one thing I was going to say, and I'll point it out purely and simply because I think it could be relevant for people. I've said that you need a hiking stick, at least one, maybe two, so that your vibrations and everything. And I remember it was probably about 7 or 8 years ago. I'm walking through this area, and I've got these sunglasses on, and I walked into an area which you'd call a glen. It had small trees around it,
right.
and I had my sunglasses on, so I went from sunlight into dark. And as I did that, I looked down and my foot starting to come down and I was able to pull it back. It was definitely a Southern Pacific. It was a
Mm,
big one and all. And I nearly stepped on it. And the reason I nearly stepped on it was because I couldn't see properly because of the sunglasses.
right.
And I can tell you now, I never wear sunglasses on a hike. Never. Not going to do it. And I
Yeah.
recommend to people don't wear sunglasses because if you go into a shade like that and you can't see this thing and you tread on it, it's going to get upset,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
we know. So
Yeah.
it's a question of do you really need to wear those sunglasses? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, good point. And boy, you've really stoked some interest here. Warner Graves has asked, can you repeat the name of the book? And John wrote in the chat, and I'll repeat it verbally. Rattlesnakes: Answers to Frequent Questions, and the author is James W. Cornett, and that's spelled Cornett. Rattlesnakes: Answers to Frequent Questions. Great book for hikers.
It is. It's a
Great book.
must. Yeah, in Southwest United States, it's a must for
Yeah,
anybody who goes out there.
we should.
The the
Mary,
other the other thing I was going to say before you cut me off
yeah,
is, which is fine, I understand. Um, no, it's this. I always say to people, um, do not go out into the wilderness on your own. And that's a biggie, because if you go out on your own and you run into trouble, and we all know people, keep getting hauled off Mount Baldy. Some of them die. And really and truthfully, do not go out in the wilderness on your own. Um, and you know, if you've got somebody with you, and make sure that you've got a device you can use while you're there, you're going to be safe. But it was like yesterday we were hiking along the Pacific Crest Trail, and we saw 9 people, and they were from Holland, Sweden, Germany, all over. And there was a crazy girl there from Texas with her boyfriend, but there were 3 girls, young women, on their own.
hmm,
One of them was from, because we always stop and talk to them, ask them where they're from, and tell them to just be careful out there. But there were 3 girls actually on their own.
hmm,
I see that quite a lot on the Pacific Crest Trail,
hmm,
and it's like, you don't really want to be doing this. You need to befriend somebody and stay with them.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think for safety for so many reasons, wildlife, adverse conditions, malign humans. So I'm not big on trust, but I think it's good advice, Norman. Marianne has stated that she does have some photos of rattlers to share if Norman wants to ID them for us.
Ooh.
Try it,
That's
Marianne. Let's see.
what's that about? I've really been
I
playing.
want to see them.
I would certainly like to see whether I can identify them or not. I
Ah,
tell you.
Okay.
But
yeah,
go on, yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Okay, here
Oh,
they are.
wow. Look.
Wait a minute. What are you seeing? You seeing the slideshow?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good, because there's some pop-up from Zoom I got to get rid of. There we
Yeah.
go. Let me make it
What a
a,
beauty.
okay,
Yeah.
so uh let me make this full screen.
Yeah.
So there's 2 snakes here,
Yeah.
and one of them is a rattlesnake, and one of them, do you think it's a rattlesnake too?
Can't see the head on the right hand one.
Doesn't look like it to me, no.
Yeah,
The
so
left hand one, what a beauty.
the
Yeah.
left-hand one, that's at Sequoia, right next to the trail on the way to, actually Kings Canyon on the way to Mist Falls, right
Uh,
next to the trail, just sleeping in the morning.
yeah.
So people, hikers woke him up and we gave him good distance.
Beautiful. What a
The,
beautiful snake.
the other one is a California king snake with
Oh.
a wrapped around a lizard on an urban trail in Chino Hills,
Mm.
Oh.
up the hill from me. So they are around. Um,
Ah,
let's see if I can get to the next one.
wow.
King
Oh.
snakes are harmless to humans.
Right, they are harmless and they're good. Now this
What,
was
is this a Southern Pacific?
that's what I thought was thinking it must be from
Looks
the
like
way
it to me, yeah.
Norm was describing
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Right. Yeah, it's a
And if
beauty.
you notice, there are 2 snakes here. This was again right next to the trail on the
Yeah.
little hill on the
Yeah.
hillside of the trail in Claremont Wilderness Park.
Oh.
There's
Was it
two
in the
of them. It was
spring?
mating season. Yeah.
In the spring, yeah. They'd be
Hmm.
mating, yeah.
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 Um,
Oh, beautiful.
rattlesnake, not a rattlesnake.
Not a rattlesnake, no.
Not a rattlesnake. Mountain king snake.
Oh, beautiful.
Yosemite on
Oh, my.
Nevada Falls Trail.
Ah, shiny.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Oop,
Not
this is a beauty.
This is not a rattlesnake, but you can see it's a really long snake.
Yeah.
You can see how you could tread on it.
Yeah.
Look at the camouflage.
Oh,
Speaking
there's
of,
a beauty.
That's definitely a rattlesnake.
Oh,
that's
what a
a big
beautiful.
rattlesnake up at Windwolf's Preserve.
Yeah.
That looks like I would have said it was a Southern Pacific, but it looks like it's got the eyelids.
Do they not have eyelids?
I don't believe they do, no.
I don't know what it is. It's up at Windwolf's, which is up on the other side of Tejon Pass in the
Yeah,
mountains.
it's gonna be a Southern Pacific then.
Okay.
It sure looks like it to me.
So this is one that passed by harmlessly,
Yeah.
as you were saying,
Yeah.
going across the trail.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
This
moving.
other one was
Oh,
not quite so.
yeah.
John has seen this picture before. This one did coil after I stepped on it.
Ah!
But it was doing exactly what Norm said. It was just going straight across the trail.
Yeah.
And this is a good cautionary thing to be really careful when you're going on a single track trail like this with high growth. He just was walking across the trail. I wasn't paying attention and stepped
Right.
on him. He was not very happy.
Especially if they're beautiful flowers you're looking at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you're the hike leader and you're pointing out flowers and then
Yeah. Yeah.
yes. And then there is the saying about, which hiker, the first hiker wakes him up, the second hiker makes him mad. Third hiker is the one that gets bit. So don't be the
What
third hiker.
what is it they say? What you got to do is if you're going hiking and it's in bear country, make sure that you are not the slowest person.
Right. So here's an example of camouflage.
Ooh, look at that.
This is a rattlesnake.
Yes,
Ooh,
it is.
This is
handsome.
John, you remember this one too, maybe. This was on the trail. I was a leader, but I was a sweeping and you were leading out of San Mateo Canyon
Mm.
at that waterfall down there, Tanaha Falls.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the snake wouldn't leave. It was just there. And you guys waited a long time, and finally, one of our hikers that's a snake handler used his hiking pole to just kind of get him off the trail.
Mm. Mm.
And this other one, it's a beautiful snake, and it is a rattlesnake.
Mm.
It was in Baja, California, curled up inside of a winery that I went to.
Oh, wow.
You're shaking your head. You don't think it's a Norm? Would you say? I'm pretty sure
No, I just thought it was funny that it'd been a winery.
it was just inside the door. Yeah, it was kind of scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dang.
So there are lots of places, but um, I'll stop sharing. But
Boy, handsome.
yeah, he was beautiful. So
Handsome.
they are beautiful animals, and really appreciate all your knowledge on them. It's helpful.
Yeah. Boy, stunning. Well, yes, I hope that you can, again, I hope you can help train our new outing leader trainees May 3rd. I thought your lecture was just wonderful, Norman.
Yeah, I will
Um,
do that if you can let me know what time.
okay.
we
I'll
need
do
to-
that offline.
Yeah,
I think it's wonderful.
yeah.
Um, any other questions, everybody, for Coach Norm, for Detective Inspector Norman? Let's see. One new message. Thank you. Many thanks. So, boy, whole spate of questions, Norm. Whole spate of questions. So thank you. I think you answered all of them.
Yep.
Many thanks. Okay, everybody. Norman once again has delivered a beautiful presentation. So thank you. To Hike Leader Norm. A couple of things. Next month we have Stacy Goss, who will be presenting on the Lonesome Miner Trail in the Inyo Mountains in the Owens Valley, Eastern Sierra region. So, um, um, Stacy is a friend of one of our colleagues and has very generously offered to teach or to present in May. So it'll be fun to be hearing about hiking in the Eastern Sierra region. and hope you sign up for that. She's a very experienced hiker and naturalist in the area. And as we'll be going up to the Eastern Sierra in June, it might be kind of nice to hear about some of the places that she's hiked. Um, Anyhow, that's what's going on. Keep on hiking, keep on walking, keep on camping with us. Check sierraclub.org/San Gorgonio/outings and events. We'll take you right to the list. And we hope to see you this summer, if not before. So, Norm, thanks a million.
You're welcome, always
Thanks, Norm. Bye.
welcome.
Thank you.